Today we want to go ahead and talk about absolute value. So before we continue, you should already know, but absolute value is the number's distance, a number's distance from 0 on a number line. So it's a number's distance from 0 on a number line. And distance is always positive. Distance is always positive. That means the absolute value of any number is always positive. So the absolute value of 7, we would say that's just 7. The absolute value of -7, it has a distance from 0 of +7. Now, what we're looking at here on our next two examples is I have the negative absolute value of 7. So if I do what's inside of the absolute value bars first, the answer is 7. But then we tag on that negative symbol, and that's why this answer would be negative. So basically it's saying the opposite. That negative symbol means the opposite of the absolute value of 7. Again, we have the opposite of the absolute value of -7. So the absolute value of -7 is still 7, but when we take the opposite of it, we have -7. Now what we want to do is we want to talk about how to solve equations using absolute value. So if I was to solve this equation, and I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it, the absolute value of x plus 1 minus 3 equals 6. First thing I want to do is I want to have the absolute value of x plus 1 all on the side by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to do an inverse operation, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of -3 and add 3 to both sides. And I'm left with the absolute value of x plus 1 equals 9. Now that I've gone ahead and done that, we want to go ahead and talk about what absolute value actually is. The absolute value, like we said, is the distance from 0. Now, remember we have that property. It says whatever's on one side of the equal sign is exactly equal to what's on the other side of the equal sign. So let's think about x plus 1, the absolute value of x plus 1, it equals the absolute value of 9. I just want you to think about this for a second. Now, if I was thinking about the absolute value of 9, going back to our examples that we had up on top there, we said that we could find the absolute value of 9 or the absolute value of -9, and those would both equal 9. So what I'm trying to get at here is that we would rewrite this. Okay, we're going to rewrite this and create two equations. The first equation, we're going to drop our absolute value bars, and the first equation I'm going to create is x plus 1 equals 9. And my second equation that I create is x plus 1 equals -9. Remember, the absolute value of 9 is 9. The absolute value of -9 is still 9. That's why I can write it like this. So now we go ahead and solve. Subtract 1, and I end up with x equaling 8. And now I can subtract 1, and I have x equals -10. Now what I want to do, though, is I have two answers for x, and that's exactly what we're looking for, but we have to check them. Let's check and make sure that our answers are correct. So I'm going to substitute 8 back up into our original equation of absolute value of x plus 1 minus 3 equals 6. So I have the absolute value of 8 plus 1 minus 3 equals 6. 8 plus 1, that's going to give me 9. The absolute value of 9 is 9. Minus 3 equals 6, and that's absolutely correct. 9 minus 3 does equal 6. So there's my first check. Then I have the absolute value of negative 10 plus 1 minus 3 equals 6. So the first thing I did is I took this x equals 8, substituted it into our original equation, and now I'm taking the negative 10, our second solution, and I'm substituting it into the equation again to check and see if that's correct. So negative 10 plus 1, that again is going to be 9. 9 minus 3, because it's negative 9. The absolute value of negative 9 is 9. That's how I got that. 9 minus 3 equals 6. And sure enough, 9 minus 3 does equal 6. So that's how we can substitute our values in and check them. Now go ahead and make sure you have this copied down. Pause if you need to, because I'm getting ready to erase this. So we can go ahead and practice the next 3 problems together. Okay, so our next 3 examples we have is the absolute value of x plus 5 equals 7. So the first thing I want to do is I want to subtract 5 from both sides, and I have the absolute value of x equals 2. Well, that's not too bad. I can say that x equals 2 or x equals negative 2. So basically I'm saying whatever I found out for x, I'm saying it is either that positive value or the negative value. So now I'm going to go ahead and check. The absolute value of 2 plus 5 equals 7. 2 plus 5 equals 7. Check. Okay, so there I took my first value of 2, substituted it in. Now I'm going to take the absolute value of negative 2, add that to 5, see if that equals 7. Sure enough, the absolute value of negative 2 is 2, plus 5 equals 7. So I took that negative 2 value, substituted that in there, and sure enough, that answer checks as well. Next problem. I have the absolute value of x minus 8 equals negative 5. So basically now what I'm saying is that x, the absolute value of x minus 8, let me take off those absolute value bars. I'm going to say x minus 8 is going to equal 5, or it's going to equal x minus 8 is going to equal negative 5. One or the other. So let's go ahead and check this and see. Add 8 to both sides. And I have x equaling 13. Or I can add 8 to both sides. And I have x equals positive 3. Let's go ahead and see. We have to check this. So I'm going to say the absolute value of x minus 13, of 13 minus 8, is that going to equal negative 5? 13 minus 8, that gives me 5, but is that going to give me negative 5? Absolutely not. That does not work. Let's try the next one. The absolute value of 3 minus 8 equals negative 5. 3 minus 8, that's going to be the absolute value of negative 5 equals negative 5. Absolute value of negative 5, though, that's positive 5. So positive 5 cannot equal negative 5. Therefore, this problem has no solutions. So there are no solutions to this equation. No solutions. Next, we have 2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 11. Make sure you have this written down. I'm getting ready to erase it. And remember, we want to go ahead. Just getting an answer isn't good enough when it comes to absolute value. When we get an answer, we certainly want to check it. So I have 2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 11. So first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and isolate x by itself, the absolute value on the side by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3. And I have 2 times the absolute value of x, and that equals 14. I'm sorry, that is not correct. It's going to be 8. Hello. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And I have the absolute value of x equals 4. So I can say the absolute value, or x, equals 4, or x equals negative 4. Let's check it out. 2 times the absolute value of 4 plus 3, does that equal 11? 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3, sure enough, does equal 11. That one checks out. Now I'm going to say negative 4. 2 times the absolute value of negative 4 plus 3 equals 11. 2 times the absolute value of negative 4, which is 4. 2 times 4, that's going to give me 8, plus 3 equals 11. Sure enough, that checks out as well. What I'd like you to do now is to go ahead, go over the next 3 problems on your own. If it turns out you have any questions or concerns, go ahead and write them here at the bottom of the page. Also at the bottom of the page, I'd like you to go ahead and draw a little smiley face. Now, on the back of your notes, you're going to see an exploration. The exploration is talking about determining absolute value by using your graphing calculator. So I'd like you to also, in addition to solving these 3 problems, go ahead and use your graphing calculator and do this exploration as well. Thank you.